Coming up, Starlink gets mobile, a nod from the US military, things heat up with rival OneWeb, and Starlink to carry voice. All this on episode 1 of Starlink News. Let's go! On April 15th, Elon Musk, responding to Everyday Astronaut, tweeted that the current geofencing that limits users to one address will be lifted later this year. Most excitingly, he notes, so you can move it anywhere, or use it on an RV or truck in motion. We need a few more satellite launches to achieve complete coverage, and some key software upgrades. This is exactly the reason I got Starlink. I wanted to be able to take it on my RV and just the backcountry, set it up where there is no cell service. I'm really happy to hear that not only we'll be able to do that, but it looks like we'll be able to do it on the move. Back in March of 2021, Starlink filed for a use permit with the FCC to begin installing and operating terminals on moving vehicles, from cars to trucks to ships and jets. But will this include Tesla cars? Elon tweeted, not connecting Tesla cars to Starlink, as our terminal is way too big. This is for aircrafts, ships, large trucks, and RVs. There's been rumblings for a long time and rumors that Starlink is making a lighter, smaller version of the Dishy so that we can use it on the go. But even more of interest is to be able to use it on foot. What do I mean by that? It leads us to the next story about why the US military is taking an interest in Starlink. US military wants SpaceX to create a miniature battery-powered Starlink dish. As reported by Teslarati, Eric Ralph reports, the U.S. Department of Defense wants to find out if SpaceX can make a miniature wireless version of the antenna currently used to connect to Starlink satellite internet. The U.S. Special Operations Command announced its interest in a miniature Starlink terminal as part of a broad agency announcement, soliciting proposals from dozens of small research and development projects under the U.S. Small Business Innovation Research Program. At this stage, just hours after the round of SBIR proposals request was published, it's unclear if the U.S. military is already coordinating with SpaceX on the topic of human portable Starlink antennas, or if the request is open to proposals from anyone. If you take a look at the attached PDF, it becomes clear this is a hardware proposal. However, one of the requirements is that it connects to Starlink. Kind of sounds like a slam dunk for Starlink, seeing as they're their only hardware-specific Starlink provider right now. It's not all easy sailing for Starlink though. Seems a healthy Cold War style beef is developing between Starlink and OneWeb. It's a good old fashioned turf war with all the drama of a trap house rap beef. The web gets pretty tangled, details are a bit murky, but here's what we know. So where's the beef? Basically, OneWeb, a UK company who hitched its satellites to Russian rockets, claimed that in April it had to move some of its satellites to avoid a collision with Starlink satellites. Later in an interview with Wall Street Journal, OneWeb head of government affairs, Chris McLaughlin, told WSJ that SpaceX informed the company it could do nothing to avoid a collision and thus switched off the automated system on that satellite. He ended with a dig. SpaceX has a gung-ho approach to space, he told the newspaper, suggesting its bully tactics are a bit cowboy. SpaceNews.com reports, an alleged close approach between the satellites from OneWeb and SpaceX led to a meeting between the companies and the Federal Communications Commission. The companies don't completely agree on what resulted from that discussion. Elon's camp was quick to respond, simply saying SpaceX expressed its disappointment to the commission that OneWeb's officials chose to publicly mistake the circumstances of the coordination. SpaceX stated in its filing, SpaceX was therefore grateful that OneWeb offered in that meeting with the commission to retract its previous incorrect statements. With all the markings of a good old-fashioned Biggie versus Tupac beef fest, OneWeb has yet to make a retraction. As space becomes a crowded place, with many companies joining the race to provide universal internet to the entire world, with little universal government, turf battles will continue, and it looks like this may be the start of a long-coming feud, not only between Starlink and OneWeb, but all those offering low-orbit space connection. Elon's never shied away from a good old-fashioned feud, and it looks like he's extending that once more to battle the telecom. In a recent report by The Independent, Starlink is looking to dominate with voice as well. Elon Musk's Starlink space internet service could be expanded into a dedicated phone service as well as more affordable internet service for low-income customers. According to the filing submitted to the FCC, SpaceX says it will eventually offer Voice over Internet Protocol Services, or VoIP. This could include minutes for use for local services, access emergency services, and the toll limitation services to low-income consumers. Voice services will be offered on a standalone basis at rates that are reasonably comparable to urban rates. and that has already been successfully tested as a standalone service over the Starlink network. SpaceX also states that the service will offer voice rates plans that in service areas that include local calling at no additional charge and will comply with any and all minimum local usage requirements adopted by the FCC or states with jurisdiction over Starlink services standalone voice service. I don't know about you, but with Verizon's huge buy on the 5G side and an estimated $150 billion more needed in infrastructure to make it work, with Starlink's estimated total cost of only $10 billion, you have to wonder who will win this war. Lon has shown that he ain't scared, and while it may seem far-fetched, routing the constellation to take on Big V seems likely. Well, that's it for me, and I appreciate you watching episode 1 of Starlink News. We'll be doing this every week, and I hope you join us. I'm Hill Phantom, reminding you to always send it. Let's go!